right, welcome to episode 71 of Random Thoughts. I thought today we might talk about rest.
Yeah, I'm just back from some rest, so it feels appropriate.
Yeah. Tell us, what was your holiday like first? Yeah.
So I went to Port Douglas for a week. I spent 3 days there with my brother and 2 friends. It was awesome. And then spent the second 3 days, or the last 4 days, with just David, my brother, and myself, and we did nothing.
Nice.
And it was fantastic. I read 3/4 of a book. Spent time in the pool. It was warm. I didn't wear a jumper.
A lot of people were doubting your ability. There was almost bets on here of your ability to do nothing for a week.
I think the last thing James said to me was, "Jacob, you can't switch off. What is this?" I'm a little bit work obsessed. I like to grind. I like to do things.
Did you manage to?
I did a lot of just sort of general thinking. I don't think that's possible to switch off, but it wasn't like to-do list, checkbox. This is the thing I'm missing out on. I think it was more just general direction of the business, direction of my coaching ability, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. It was more,
so by your standards,
it's quite good. Yeah.
Complete detach.
Yeah. And I read a good Tim Ferriss's new book, The Tools of Titan, which is phenomenal if anyone's interested in that kind of stuff. And that was a lot of that was I've already listened to the podcast. It was good to recap on that information.
Yeah, nice.
And it was sort of more just general thinking and letting the brain unwind and be more diffuse thinking, I suppose.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
Nice. And sleep-wise, you slept longer than you've been sleeping?
Yeah, I slept 12 hours a night.
Can you do that? Like you can actually get through 12?
I didn't think I could, but I did it 3 nights in a row, 10 till 10. I didn't think I still had that in me, but I managed it.
I can't go more than 8.5. I really can't really go more than 8 and sleep.
Got a force for that though, yeah.
Yeah, like 8.5 is like, I'll be in the bed that time, but I won't get 8.5 hours sleep. My body just, and I'm suspicious it actually wants more like 7 than 7.5 as now I'm older.
And as we age, that's just how it happens. Like babies sleep 16 hours a day, and as we get through teenagers and then into adulthood, that tapers away.
So confession, I don't know why we need less sleep as we age.
Well, I know why you need more when you're young, because you're more growing and developing, and when you sleep, your growth hormone and all those sort of things are going on. So there's a more development.
Like up until 25, growth hormone's quite high. Yeah.
And so your body is just fortifying bones. Bones are lengthening out. Muscles are getting bigger. Skin is getting stronger, and cartilage is turning into bone, stuff like that. And so I suppose as you age, the reverse is happening. There's less. So I wonder whether it's actually not so much aging that requires less sleep, but more less activity means you need less sleep. So as we age, we tend to be less active, tend to move around less, and therefore
I don't think that can be it, because I'm like pretty active. 44-year-old me smashes 30-year-old me for activity levels.
Has it been habitual though now that you've got kids? And so your body has rewired itself to not need it?
Yeah, once you've had kids, you never sleep the same. You sleep light.
Yeah, and more alert and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's how old's Max?
Max is 7.
So maybe it's a 7-year habit.
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, because when he was teething, I was coming to work and I'd been sleeping 3.5, 4 hours a night, and that kind of retrains you a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. But one of the things I was thinking about diffusely while I was away was this idea of rest, both in an acute sense, supercompensation between workout stuff, but also chronically, and not just physical, but also mental rest. And so I sort of wanted to elaborate on those today.
I think rest is the hardest thing to get right, because there's always this pressure of doing stuff, and there's so many things that people want to do, and in the modern world, it's very rare that we have a 7 consecutive day period. Well, to take it back step, what's meant to happen is you're actually meant to be in rhythm with the sun going up, coming up, going down, and your body gets its circadian rhythms, which are regulated by the pineal gland.
Pituitary.
Definitely a gland. It's above your shoulders.
Gland somewhere above. Yeah.
And it's regulated.
That'll be in the show notes as well. Yeah.
Good. And that's just a natural system. And we
melatonin, serotonin, cortisol balance basically is the hormones that happen there.
And we lose that in modern life with our lights and our different screens and our different bedtimes. And so we're always, a bit out of phase, out of sync. I think everyone's always got this really, really, really mild version of jet lag. Like if jet lag's the full extreme, your body's completely tipped upside down in its rhythms. I think we've all got, jet lag is one of the lines here and one line that you're completely out of phase. And I feel like most of us are just a little out of phase.
So shifted to the side on the graph, yeah.
Yeah. And when you do get back in phase and actually getting good consistent sleep at roughly the same time, you really do notice a difference. Like I noticed that even if I'm getting less sleep, if I'm getting roughly up at the same time, I cope with that a lot better.
Yep.
There's clearly something in that. From an athletic point of view, the benefits are ridiculous of getting good sleep. Your motor learning is going to be better. You're going to encode the things that you practice better because you're fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But then that night, you are going to better remember the things and lock them down because your brain does like a system defrag while you're asleep.
Puts everything in the right spot and rewires itself. And
Yeah.
that's one of the theories behind dreams. Dreams is your brain rewiring itself and laying down pathways.
That's pretty interesting. So if it's just if all you cared about was having great skills in your sport, sleep's a really big deal. Like just getting that. But then there's more to it from a nervous system point of view
and physical and stuff like that as well. But I want to just take it in a little bit of a different direction now. There's sleep, and we all know how important that is. But also just and this is interesting. It seems counter to what a lot of people think is Australians are actually really hardworking people, and we're a really hardworking culture. And there's this sort of external perception.
Oh, that's come through my do not disturb. I'm just going to grab that really quickly. Sorry.
Pause on that. And we're back. So it seems kind of internationally we kind of like Australians are dinky die and casual.
Like a daisical, casual, yeah.
But we, from an athletic point of view, we're actually really hardworking. And there's a perception, and maybe it's a Melbourne-based thing. I'm not sure what it's like in the other cities, but especially and we're quite familiar with the basketball at the high end, the elite end. There is this perception of just constantly doing more. If you're not out there with the ball in your hand, if you're not grinding at 6 a.m., if you're not doing this and this and this, then you're going to fall behind, and you're wrecking your chance of being the best athlete possible because you could always be doing more, And it's the same from a work point of view.
But part of that within the sports side is that the motivational poster for, if you're not working, somebody else is getting ahead of you. You've always got to be grinding. And the picture of someone getting up at 5 a.m. and doing their stuff. That's a much better motivational poster than, do as much as you need to and then
Once
stop.
you get tired, have a little rest and then make sure you get good sleep and then eat lots of food. Yeah. It's not very motivational, but
in work culture, it's quite different. I remember a friend of mine talking about a very high level executive role and working in the UK, and he said like at 5:15 you could shoot a cannon down the main corridor of his place, the very high up business place, and no one was there. And he said we actually work quite long hours compared to the UK, and that was in a competitive business field. It's really interesting. Yeah, we do the same.
We seem to work and work, and
perhaps because we feel like we're overcompensating for the perception that we don't work. Like it's a deep-seated national insecurity about
trying to shift the perception. Yeah, and so I think that stems down to and it maybe goes both ways, but from our athletic end, it seems that like swimmers and our sport seem to be suited to hardworking athletes. Like footballers, you got to run lots of Ks. Rowers, you got to be up early. Swimmers, you got to be up nice and early to get these, to get the Ks in the arms and the legs and stuff like that.
Yeah, swimmers are up at 4:30.
Depending on what club, it's insane. And rowers as well. Yeah, they're out on the water by 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And there's just this thing that it always seems to be that if I do more work, I'll get a better result and I'll get further. But in work, in sport, in everything, actually getting the right balance. And it's not about being a wuss and doing nothing. It's about getting that right balance between enough work to create adaptation and stress your body and cause positive growth and adaptation, and both skill-wise and physical and stuff like that. But also enough rest that you can be motivated to do every day and not feel like it's a grind, and recover your systems and stay away from sickness and stay away from injury as well.
Yeah, and I think that the last few years there's been this idea that you can substitute. So the idea that you can substitute in recovery practices as being as good as time rested.
Actually, just hours of not moving.
Active recovery is way more valuable than just sitting around. Like you get blood flow, you get the tissues moving. There's all sorts of tremendous
fascial
benefits.
Release, blah blah blah.
Yeah, all these things. So active recovery is way better. But you need active recovery in addition to just minutes. Like there's just the minutes from the stimulus.
Sometimes you just need a day off for your bones.
Yeah. And I think that gets missed. People are like, oh well, it's cross training. Well, sometimes like I remember it was a bodybuilder that said, they're talking about split programs, and bodybuilders will do programs, particularly the ones that are having a lot of chemical assistance.
Extracurriculars.
They will often be on it used to be, I don't know how prevalent it is still, double a day. So your morning.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, I've just finished reading his biography. He was a big proponent of that, and he would do something in the morning and then something again.
So big body. So you do legs and shoulders in the morning, and then you come back and you just do a little body part like calves and biceps at night.
Yeah.
And you do that 3 consecutive days. You have a day off, and then you go back 3 consecutive days. So you're doing 6 sessions in 3 days, break and go. And then someone really smart, and I can't remember who it was, said, that's great, but every workout, it's great because you're resting the muscles, but every workout is kidney day. Like your liver, your kidney,
has to process
your adrenal
that.
System,
nervous system, the whole lot. Joints,
everything. And I think that's a really interesting idea that yes, you're cross training, but you still actually just need to be at least, I think, an absolute minimum 1 day a week where you do almost nothing.
Nothing above a walk.
Yeah. So on a Saturday, I just do a 20-minute to 30-minute bike, and it's really light. Like it's embarrassingly light. So it's probably technically nothing.
Yeah.
But it's just a bit of active recovery, so I can run on the Sunday. But yeah, like it should be a level where your heart rate is not high. You're not pushing any heavy weights, just pretty cruisy. 1 day a week of that, and then one other day where it might be a lighter day. I think that's probably the perfect. And then occasionally just like a 5-day block where you don't do anything.
That was what Port Douglas was,
Yeah. So, I think you stretch beyond 5 days and you've got to dig
you start making a hole and actually start detraining, and that's the balance.
Yeah.
So. To wrap up, do you want to tell your story that you use a lot with our athletes about the high performance program versus the low performance program of our juniors versus our seniors, when you compare your boomers program and the boomers workload to what a typical junior Melbourne athlete
It's an interesting and it's a controversial story. I'd like to preface it by saying that we have to work in an unideal world in juniors where athletes have many competing priorities. And so sometimes I used to get really angry and frustrated about how it was. Now I'm like, well, it is what it is. You've got to work within it. But yeah, at senior level, at professional level, we have control of the program. So we can say, all right, the players are going to be running on the Monday. They'll have a lift on Monday morning. They might have a training session Tuesday night, and then they might have a day off on Thursday. It's structured. There's microcycle periodization where it's well ordered, and we're keeping their volume to somewhere around 14 hours a week of sport
of high intensity work
max. Whereas juniors, the best of our juniors are doing in excess of 16, sometimes up to 20 hours a week of sport.
More. I've been seeing some programs recently like 26, 28 hours of stuff. And
so you've got this situation where you've got...
And just quickly, the gymnasts will laugh at that. The gymnasts and swimmers and distance
runners.
That 2 days. That was Tuesday. But for team sport and ball sport athletes,
Yeah, and it's really interesting because what you've got is a situation where your athletes who've made it through because it's a Darwinian filter, elite sport. Like if you've made it through the filter to pro level, you have the great genes, you're hardworking,
nice and durable body.
Yeah. So the athletes who've got mature, hardened bodies that have made it through the filter, they're doing around 12, 14. And then you've got athletes who we're trying to develop who are doing way more, who've got less durable bodies that are still growing, that actually need more rest for their growth hormone. They're more, I don't want to use the word fragile because I think fragile makes it sound like we think they're all Cinderellas.
It's that concept of not so much more vulnerable, I suppose, to
wear and
tear. Yeah, a lack of durability.
So it's crazy, but it's an opportunity for the kids. I think I'm always about trying to find the silver lining, and the silver lining to me is it's an opportunity for, if you want to stand out, successfully combine training really hard, intensely with purpose, and strategically recovering and also resting as 2 distinct things. So recovery is doing
foam rolling, your ice bars, nutrition, stuff like that.
Gentle recovery bike, session in the water at the beach or whatever. And rest is actually just flat out watching telly, doing your homework is actually rest.
Reading a book.
But physical rest.
Napping, sleeping.
And if you can be really good at that, that's a huge source of competitive advantage.
And in those situations, doing more is not beneficial, but making the sessions you do be more targeted, more focused, more intense. So trying to pack more into the hours you are on court. So instead of going, I'll just get 3 hours of shots up. Get an hour of shots up, or an hour of goal kicking practice, or an hour of handling, or whatever your sport may be, or serving, or whatever your sport is. Get an hour in, but make it really high intensity and make the quality of the work really count.
Yeah.
As opposed to just getting up 1,000 for the sake of it.
And our quality drops off way quicker than we think. So I'm late to the bandwagon, but I'm on the Colmac bandwagon, which is a different way of typing.
Colmac is a different type of keyboard where the layout, instead of being a traditional QWERTY setup, they've put the most commonly used letters in easy to reach places, so they're more under your fingertips. So you move your hands less. You type a little bit faster. That's one of the benefits. But the big benefit is you don't move your hands much. Yeah. So there's less chance of repetitive strain and carpal tunnel syndrome type stuff.
And it just offends me that QWERTY is from when it was mechanical.
Yeah, the typewriter would literally go up, and because the A&E would actually, they would lock.
They would lock, and they had to find a way to slow the typers down so they didn't, to make them further apart. But anyway, so I've been doing that 20 minutes. I started at 25, and what I noticed was that at about the 19-minute mark, my accuracy goes through the floor. It's really an exponential drop off. Everything's going fine, because it's a thing where your accuracy, your fine motor control is really exposed. And at 19, through the floor. So I've shortened it down to 20 now rather than 25, because the last 6 minutes were me reinforcing the patterns of mistakes.
Grooving bad habits, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think, really easy to do in sport as well. I think it's a really interesting little case study on just how finite our cognitive resources are in terms of concentration. I think you can concentrate really intensely for a short period, but you can't do that for hours now, and you're better off putting up bad shots, bad kicks, bad serves, bad sprints.
Yeah, bad sprints is a big one as well.
Anything like that. I think it's really, really good to just have a good level of sensitivity to. Actually, for me, 30 minutes of shooting, kicking, whatever is great, or 20 reps of that is great, but more isn't. My favourite story on that. We had an athlete, one of our most improved athletes of all time. When he came in, he was about 14 years of age. I think you know who I'm talking about. I won't call him out. And you know what we can call him? He'll probably like it.
Go on.
Luke Gerke. Hey, Luke. And Luke was awesome. He was a kid that came in, and on the first day, he couldn't do pelvic tilt. And we spent 40 minutes trying, because he was just it just was.
I will get this today if it kills me.
Because he's so intense.
That kind of guy, yeah.
And he was a more is more. He would do anything to get better. And he was a great athlete, and he improved immensely in the gym, and just got better and better and better, and became a really explosive athlete.
He's crazy. Yeah, mad hops. Just springy as all hell.
Elbow to the rim type stuff. But anyway, but he was that personality type where more is more. And although
if 10 reps of this weight are good, let me give you 3 sets of 10, or let me try for 20. Yep.
Yeah, that was his mentality. And he went away to Great Barrier Reef on a school camp. So nice school camp.
Yeah, nice.
And he was away for 2-3 weeks and didn't train at all. Came back and came up to me astonished. He's like, Darren, I'm dunking better than before, and I haven't trained for 3 weeks.
What the hell is this?
How is this possible? Yeah, your nervous system finally got a rest, and you didn't notice your nervous system's been suppressed for 3-4 months.
It's been on a subtle level of supercompensation,
where it hasn't been able to pick back up.
It hasn't been able to do a full overshoot.
And he got to rest, and because it's Great Barrier Reef, he probably stayed a bit. It's probably the perfect. I wouldn't suggest a 3-week or 2-week deload, but he was still a bit active. It wasn't like he was just playing Xbox for 3 weeks, which would be disastrous.
Yep.
But it was a perfect example of your nervous system. It's that that lobster boiling in the pot. If you gradually turn the dial of the heat up, it doesn't notice that it's boiling, and you can boil it to death. Apparently. Have you not heard that analogy?
Dad, can you help me on that one? If you know, Dad, let us know.
The analogy is if you've got a boiling pot of water and you drop in the lobster, it's ah.
So no, that ruins lobsters. What you do is you drown them first.
Okay, I feel like I'm taking a dark turn.
So to cook a lobster, you drown it in fresh, because it's a saltwater animal. Okay. You drown it in fresh water,
right,
with a chopping board over the top of a box with weights or something like that.
Oh, Jesus.
It's swimming around, going crazy. I don't eat lobster anymore. Never did. And then you boil it once it's dead.
Right. Okay. So for the analogy,
some places might.
Can we just go back to the analogy?
Sure.
So can we call it another thing? A yabby? Do you have any expertise around yabbies?
You also drown those. But yeah, go with the analogy.
Point being,
the analogy is still strong.
The organism doesn't detect the gradual increase in heat load
because it's so slow.
It's so slow, and therefore tolerates it to its untimely death.
In the same way, what you're meaning is, in the same way we don't recognise a subtle sleep deprivation or subtle caffeine addiction or subtle exhaustion of the nervous system.
It's so incremental, it creeps up on us without us noticing.
Because it's not like all of a sudden you do 4 workouts in a week, not 3, and you're in a hole. Yeah. It's like you do 4 and you do that a couple of times, all of a sudden you lose a centimetre vertical or a 0.1 of your
Whereas if you went from a training load of 10 hours a week and you went straight to 20, you'd be like, I can't shoot, I can't do
like
this.
You've been hit in the face, yeah.
Yeah, whereas it's the incremental thing that I think gets people. So
do less and do it better.
Do
less but make the quality better.
High quality, good rest periods, and active recovery. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. You'll find all the show notes below. I'm going to try and avoid any fishing-based metaphors.
And I'll try and learn some so I can bring some to the table next week.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.